From each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are. From memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried. And with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight. Reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey. And believe it or not, we have made it to our 20th episode. It feels like just yesterday we were starting out and we were on number 1 and we were trying to get to 10 films to create our list upon a star. And now we have made it all the way to our 20th episode. But before we dive into what that is, because we got a lot to say about this, we'd like to take a second to wish everybody a happy Labor Day weekend for everybody that is watching or listening when this comes out. We hope you had a memorable summer. Thank you for hanging out with us this summer. And we have quite the film to wrap up August for you. And that film is, as we said earlier, the 20th Disney feature-length film, released February 5th, 1953, and that is Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot to say about Peter Pan. I'm going to save a lot of my ramblings until we get going. I know that a few episodes ago we said that Alice in Wonderland made us do a lot of pausings. I think that we paused more halfway through this film than we did even in the whole entire Alice in Wonderland. But before we go on and on, why don't you hit us with a little bit of a synopsis and your thoughts? I think you have some background information about the film as well.
Okay. So Wendy and her brothers are whisked away to the magical world of Neverland with their hero of their stories, Peter Pan.
Okay. What was some of your thoughts? You got some background, some information?
Yeah. So Peter Pan is an adaptation of J.M. Barrie's story about a boy who never grew up. The three of the Darling family receive a visit from Peter Pan, who takes them to Neverland, where there is an ongoing war between Peter's gang of ragtag runaways and the evil pirate Captain Hook is taking place.
Okay. Do you have any other notes that would be good for the beginning of the film before I say my opening piece and dive in?
Well, I have some fun facts. I mean, I guess we can always circle back around to that if you want to just circle back around to it and you just want to go ahead and dive on in.
Okay. So obviously this is the animated classic, as you can see here in the video.
Mm-hmm.
This is the return of Bobby Driscoll. Bobby Driscoll was kind of the child star of a few of our earlier films.
Yep.
He is the voice of Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
As I stated in the Alice in Wonderland episode, the voice of Alice. Catherine Beaumont is also the voice of Wendy Darling.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that knows me knows how much I love this movie. They kind of know how much I've always loved it since I was a child. I have a Lost Boy tattoo. KJ threw me a Never Grow Up Lost Boy themed birthday gathering for my 30th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
But plenty of time to talk about all that. So are you ready to dive right in?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so as we get going, make sure to stop me. I know that you have a lot of notes and everything too.
So starting out, I just want to say, and you're probably gonna be upset with me, but I don't remember a lot of the opening of the movie, like at the Darling house. I think I only really remember them flying away to Neverland, so it felt like I was watching that again for the first time, but I'm pretty sure I have had to seen it if I've seen the movie. And just
So what you're saying was your childhood was a letdown.
I guess.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I watched it enough for the two of us.
Okay, well there you go. I don't remember really much of the nursery scene other than like when Peter gets there, but maybe that's why I don't remember it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anything else? You want me to go ahead and
I thought it was interesting that Peter chose the Darling house because there were people in the house who believed in him.
yeah, I wrote that a little bit further. I have
Mhm.
like a whole synopsis about that the people believed in him. So.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting that continues on some of the things that we've been watching for in our movies was if you look at Mrs. Darling and then you see her husband, it's just another case where a woman has had to settle.
Man, he is so fashionable though.
No, he's not.
We'll get there. So there was a warning before
Yeah.
this on Disney Plus, for some cultural depictions, which we will cover pretty in depth later on.
Yeah.
So it starts off with some iconic music. As before the opening credits roll, there is um the little blurb that says the Walt Disney Productions is grateful to the Hospital of Sick Children on Great Ormond Street, London, to which Sir James M. Barrie gave his copyright to Peter Pan. So
Mhm.
you mentioned that earlier.
He actually had to wait. Walt Disney had to wait for that to be done before he could actually get the rights of the film. That was one of the interesting things that I had read about it.
I remember when I was a kid. Obviously, I wasn't a kid in the 50s, but I remember when I was a kid, we would watch this a lot, and we would also watch like a live action,
Mm.
like theater play of Peter Pan, and it
Mhm.
was like a famous one. And I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. But it
Yeah,
was
I also didn't realize that there were different, like, I guess I just thought it was the movie.
oh no, there's a lot of
And I guess
versions.
like maybe I could have, I don't know, conceptualized the book obviously, but I didn't realize there was like play versions.
Yeah, like more famous than
Did
this.
you know that
But,
Walt Disney actually played Peter Pan
well, there you
in
go.
one of his plays when he was a
No,
kid?
I didn't. Is that what you read?
That was another fact. Fun fact. I'll just squeeze them in from time to time.
Yeah. So there's the opening credits are rolling. We hear the song that's playing. There's the lyrics. The second star to the right shines in the night for you.
Mhm.
The intro credits they have like they kind of have like drawn pictures throughout various locations of Neverland.
Mhm.
It's beautiful. The first shot we see is of the second star to the right, and the narrator says that this has all happened before. And then we see the Darling's house, like you said.
Mhm.
Um, we learn that Peter chose this house because they believe in him. Mrs. Darling believes that Peter is the spirit of youth, but Mr. Darling is a practical man.
Yes.
John and Michael made Peter the hero from their nursery games. You might hear me say this a few times, but John's the best.
Michael.
John's the best.
Michael's the best. He's adorable. And the teddy bear.
We'll get there with the teddy bear, but John's my guy. Wendy not only believed, but she was the supreme authority of Peter Pan's adventures.
Mhm.
And then of course Nana the pup, she kept her opinions to herself.
Mhm.
So thoughts on the Darlings besides that John is the best?
So Michael is actually the best.
You're wrong.
But another thought that I had in because I obviously don't remember the nursery scene that much when the movie starts opening. For the life of me, I could not figure out why Mr. Darling was looking for his dress attire in the nursery.
Oh, we'll get there.
Like he's trying to finish getting ready because him and Mrs. Darling are going out and they're gonna leave the kids. They're gonna leave the kids at home alone, which I thought was weird too. But he's looking for his dress attire in the nursery and in his what was it called? A
Shirt front.
shirt front, which he was mad because the kids had drawn on it with chalk, so they had a map for treasure.
Right.
But why that was in their room, I don't know. The cufflinks were treasure, but I don't
So John and Michael,
Mhm.
they do a nursery reenactment of the pirate fight.
Yep.
Which I wrote was already more exciting than any of the sword fights in the Treasure Island that we watched a few movies ago.
Very much so.
The father can't find his cufflinks because the boys use them as the buried treasure, and they wrote a map on his shirt front.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen anybody wear a shirt front before?
I haven't. I didn't even know that was the name of it. And I thought it was funny that the kids are playing and he's going to get his clothes and he's upset obviously with the kids and he hears them playing and he calls them Captain Crook and Peter Pirate.
Yeah, he does, and he keeps knocking over all of Nana's hard work.
Yeah, Nana.
So Mr. Darling is not pleased with the boys. He's not pleased with Wendy's stories.
Mhm.
He also has the same voice as Captain Hook, which is kind of.
I mean, if you think about it, I think I did write in my notes that I feel like Captain Hook in my mind, I guess, looked very he looked like a skinnier version of the dad.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all just, their
I'll get
stories,
back to
so.
my point on that later though.
So again, he calls him Captain Crook,
Yeah.
Peter Pirate, Poppycock.
Yeah.
And he says that Wendy is growing up and she needs a room not in the nursery.
Yeah, and she does not take this very well. And I thought to myself, what girl is gonna complain about getting her own room?
Forgetting what girl? What house has the room? And they're like, no, we're gonna put all of our children in the same room, even though we have other rooms.
The Darlings. That
True.
also like to leave their children at home alone.
So he does trip over poor Nana.
Mhm.
He takes Nana outside. Poor Nana, poor father.
Yeah.
This room in the nursery in in the Darling's house that you don't really remember.
Yeah.
Obviously it is part of the classic ride at the Magic Kingdom with the fantastic queue line.
Yeah. I was thinking about that when we were watching it, and I felt like they pretty much nailed it.
Is it worth the wait?
It is.
Yeah.
It is worth the wait, I guess. It's interactive, it's cute.
I love it. You get to fly.
Yeah, but I also feel like the wait time for that ride is a little like overrated for what it is.
You're wrong. So when he
If
takes
you've been to Disney and you've waited in that line, let us know if you feel like it's overrated like I do. Or if you agree with Jeffrey. I mean, it's a great ride, but I don't know if it warrants the wait times that it always has. Okay, you can go back now.
I love it. So he takes Nana outside. He tells her that sooner or later people have to grow up.
Yeah.
Wendy does not want the mother to lock the window, even though the parents are leaving for the party because Peter might come back.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me, why would Peter come back?
Because Wendy told her mom that she had something of his, and she asked her what it was, and she said she had his shadow.
She has
because
his
Nana
shadow.
got it.
Got it.
Which just shows you that Nana really does watch after the children to make sure they're safe.
Sure. What happened if you lost your shadow? So George Darling, as you said earlier, he does know how to dress, man. Yeah, and he's got the top hat, he's got the cane, he's got the cufflinks. He is smooth. So as the parents leave, we see that Peter is on the roof, and we hear the very iconic music notes that tug on the emotions. I can't even explain it, but
and he looks very villainous
yeah,
to me.
I'll get there on that. But
did you know that he was like his character was supposed to look like Bobby Driscoll?
I mean, he's
that
creepy.
That did his voice. And and then like after watching all of the other movies with you that had him in it, I was like, oh my God, now I see it.
Yeah. So we hear that like iconic whistle that would 100% make me consider becoming a Lost Boy. It's a very nostalgic sound. It makes me feel like being a kid.
Can you do it?
No. When Tinkerbell does first illuminate Peter's face on the roof, he does look very evil, like you said.
Yeah.
But speaking of Miss Tinkerbell, thoughts, and tell our listeners and viewers about Miss Tinkerbell.
So in the scene where he makes it there and goes into the window, he hits something and wakes up Wendy when he's wrestling with his shadow. And she tells him that he can't attach his shadow back with soap, he must sew it on. Why she knows he can sew on a shadow is beyond me. But she goes to a drawer and knocks Tinkerbell in the back of it, and Tinkerbell looks so mad. And it's
Tinkerbell's not a fan of Wendy, period.
no. So from the beginning, they did not get off on a good foot, and she's just very, very jealous of Wendy.
Yeah, she's a prissy young lady, that Tinkerbell. She
Mhm.
flies over the mirror and she doesn't like the size of her hips in the reflection, and she doesn't like Wendy at
Mhm.
all. They find the shadow. The shadow's hard to catch.
Mhm.
That like you said, it wakes up Wendy.
Mhm.
She knew he would come back.
Yeah.
She uses soap to put the shadow back on, but then Peter then states that girls talk too much,
Mhm.
which is hilarious because the dude comes all the way from Neverland just to hear her talk and tell stories.
Stories, yeah.
Um, so he as we learn that he does take her stories back to the Lost Boys.
Mm.
Um,
And she tells him it's her last night in the nursery.
Yep, she says that her father told her that she has to grow up, and this enrages Peter because
Yeah.
we all know how he feels about growing up, and there would be no more stories.
And he basically just likes her story, so that's really the only reason he doesn't want her to grow up.
They're good stories. He wants to take her to Neverland, which is, which is much to Tinkerbell's shock. She mentions her mother. She mentions her mother, which is the first time Peter learns what a mother is.
Mhm.
It says that Wendy could be the Lost Boys' mother.
Yep.
Any thoughts on that?
I don't know. Have you ever like had to sit there and explain something to someone that's like so common to you that you're like, I don't really know how to explain this because I mean, I just know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, she did a good job.
No.
Um, so she mentions kissing Peter,
Mm-hmm.
and Tinkerbell will not stand for that,
No. She's not happy about that at all.
which then wakes up the boys,
Mm-hmm.
and John exclaims, "Jiminy, Jiminy!"
Yeah.
And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier or not,
Yep.
but John's the best.
No, it's Michael.
John's the best. So John and
It's definitely
Michael want to go to Neverland because John, very properly, would sure like very much to cross swords with a real life buccaneer.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael says, and fight pirates too.
Yep.
So Peter mentions that they're gonna fly there, but he cannot explain how to fly because he's never had a thought about that before. So speaking of things that like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that like he just kind of knows.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about on that, or any background notes about the whole flying thing before I dive into the wonderful scene?
So, um, like you said, Michael wakes up, John wakes up. They're super excited that Peter Pan is in their room. Um, one of them, I can't remember which one it was specifically, calls Tinkerbell a firefly. And then they find out that she's a pixie. And um, that's when Tinkerbell tells Peter Pan that Wendy is a big, ugly girl. And I thought that was funny because it's like,
I mean, she's much bigger
if
than
you didn't
Tinkerbell.
know that Tinkerbell did not like her, you do now.
Yeah. So they realize to fly
Mm-hmm.
that you have to think about the happiest thoughts.
Yep.
So if you had to fly, what would you think about?
Let's see.
Not having to go to work tomorrow?
Mm. I would think about coffee, Dole Whip, and good books.
And you fly.
And I would fly.
Um,
Go get some coffee
so
and possibly a
it's
Dole
true.
Whip.
So they break into the "You Can Fly" song sequence. I love it. It's perfect. Best song that we've seen in any movie so far.
Mm-hmm.
10 out of 10. No contest. If you aren't familiar with that song or the words to the "You Can Fly," do yourself a favor and pause us right now and go listen. We can wait. Okay, we're back. So after they all realize that they still can't fly
Mm-hmm.
because they've only had faith and trust, Peter forgot the most important thing, which is, of course, pixie dust. It's the same as having wings.
Mm-hmm.
So anything on that before we keep going?
Um, No, not really.
Okay. So with the pixie dust, they take off to the second star to the right and straight on to morning.
Hmm.
So second star to the right and straight on till morning,
Hmm.
which means one of two things. That either means that the parents left for their party very, very, very late at night, or Neverland is a very long flight away.
I mean, I would assume it's a very long flight away.
So John brings his top hat and his umbrella, and Michael brings his teddy bear, like we mentioned
Mhm.
earlier. As we're flying out of the Darling household, we see Nana. Nana's having a barking attack, and Michael pours some pixie dust on her. He literally just grabs Tinkerbell and just shakes some pixie dust on her.
Mhm.
And she starts to fly, but she's tied
With
up.
her wing or her little ears as wings.
Yeah, and but since she's tied up, she can't follow them. It's very
I know.
adorable.
Made me sad.
Um,
Did you know that the original plot was to also have Nana go with them?
I mean, that'd be awesome.
Could you imagine how
But
different the story
so
would
that's
be?
actually a perfect segue right there. What do you think Nana's happy thoughts were to let her fly?
The kids.
The kids?
Yeah.
Um,
And how cute Michael is.
I mean, have you seen John?
Yep.
So they land on Big Ben in an incredibly nostalgic scene. I know you have some notes about the whole Big Ben.
Winston's trying to point it out to you.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. For our audio listeners, the king of the house, Mr. Winston, is hanging out with us right now and messing up our props. But anything on the Big Ben?
Um, so I actually had this wrote down in my notes as part of goofs. So Peter, Wendy, and John and Michael land on one of Big Ben's hands. And when they land on it, the time is 8:15. But as they fly off of Big Ben, the clock face reads 7:15.
Yeah, that's how
That just happened. It's not even the right time.
I know.
Um, and then another goof was, and then we actually did rewind it to make sure that that was a legit thing, and we did see it, was shortly after Wendy leaves Big Ben's hands, her face disappears, and all that's showing is a blank pink area where her face should be. Yep.
Saves the animators.
And then, I guess, and as Peter and the gang are flying back to Neverland, towards the end of the You Can Fly sequence, if you watch carefully, and I did notice, Peter's shoes change colors from brown to green.
Brown hair on the cover.
Yeah,
Um,
they were brown, and then they just turned to green, like they got lazy with their animating and just left them green. Yeah.
so we make it to Neverland, and the first thing we meet is the pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet one of my favorite characters, that's Mr. Smee.
Yep.
Thoughts on Smee?
I adore him. He kind of, I don't know if you kind of get this at all, but I kind of get vibes of like the Seven Dwarfs.
Dopey.
Like
Yeah.
not really so much dopey. Like I don't know. Like I can see
It's
a
the
combination of like
yeah.
dopey in all of them. And I think it's like the white hair. I don't know.
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
Mr. Smee. So we meet Captain Hook with his cigar in his hook hand. He's scouring over a map, trying to
Mhm.
locate his mortal enemy, Peter Pan.
Yes. And I have a gripe about this
Go ahead.
because he was looking at the map and he got upset, and he's like, the cigars he had is two cigars on one pipe. I don't know, did that actually, I'm assuming it existed anyway. It's the weirdest thing. But he got upset. He set them down on the map. They're still lit, and then flips the table over. So obviously Peter Pan has an enemy that is not terrified of fire, or setting his whole ship on fire,
He's
I
not
guess.
afraid of much. So Hook, obviously, of course, he hates Peter for multiple reasons, but one of the largest is that Peter cut off his hand
Mm-hmm.
in a sword fight, which fed it to the crocodile, which we'll touch on later. But my question is, Do you think that before that duel, his name was Captain Hand?
It could have been Captain Pink Shirt
Cap-
because I don't remember his shirt being pink.
Mhm.
I guess in my mind it was white, and I was just like,
Is
I
that
don't
why
remember that
maybe
being pink.
most of my work wardrobe is pink?
I hope not.
I do wear a lot of pink too.
You
So
do.
as he's going over this, he's trying to figure out. He's trying to find Peter Pan's hideout. It doesn't make like he can't find it. It's
Hmm.
a hideout. It's a hideout's hideout.
Yeah.
But he decides that he has an idea that he's going to capture the chief's daughter, Tiger Lily, and force her to tell him where Peter Pan's hideout is because they know um every inch of the island.
Hmm.
So without going too deep into the what we're going to discuss later, any thoughts on Tiger Lily or
Not so much.
not so much? Okay. Um, so then he decides to randomly shoot one of his crewmen because the crewman is singing and playing the accordion. He just decides to grab a revolver and shoot this poor pirate because he's annoyed by his song.
Hmm.
But I think that the real reason he shot him was because Hook was jealous because he can't play the accordion because he only has one hand. That song really has a hook. Um, so, but then we hear the tick-tock of the crocodile song, coming back to eat the rest of the hook because the crocodile got the taste of the hand.
Yeah,
Um,
it was a tasty meal.
so that's as a reoccurring thing, it terrifies
Yeah,
Hook. Anything on this?
I got super excited because I was like, why does this sound familiar? And then it occurred to me that if you have ever stayed at Walt Disney and have gone to any of the Magic Kingdom resorts,
The monorail.
yeah, the monorail loop, or if you've stayed at Fort
Mm.
Wilderness, you can also see it. So any of the
Originals.
Magic Kingdom resorts, and you go to the water at night, you can watch the electric water parade, and that music is actually in there. And
Yeah.
I was like, "It's not far," and that's
Yeah.
why I got so excited that I finally figured out where it was from.
You also,
Yeah.
it's from Never Smile at Crocodile, but you didn't know what that was.
I didn't know what it was until you played it for me, but yeah.
So many people,
Yeah.
so many people mistake my Haunted Mansion tattoo for this crocodile.
Yeah, I don't know why they would.
Everybody does,
It doesn't even look the same.
but
The other
not
crocodile
many
is so much
people
cooler.
know much. Hey, be careful.
No, the Peter Pan crocodile is so much
Oh,
cooler
okay,
than the other
cool.
one.
So Smee is shaving Doctor Captain Hook, but then as he puts the warm towel around Captain Hook, a seagull lands on it. So he starts to he's starts to shave the backside of the seagull as opposed to Captain Hook's face,
Mhm.
and then he thinks he cuts off his head, which is a pretty funny scene.
Yeah.
And then the pirates they spot Peter Pan. They say Peter Pan ahoy. The Peter Pan and the Darlings have made it to Neverland, and they are like kind of hanging out on a cloud.
Jump.
Uh,
Oh my god. Sorry.
from one pet to the next, huh? Everybody's going to hang out. So the Darlings and Peter Pan are kind of like looking over Neverland on a cloud, but the pirates see them.
Hmm.
So they shoot a cannon at them, but Peter and the Darlings they duck just in time. But it's around here that we yet again see that Tinkerbell really dislikes Wendy.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about this?
Well, I mean, Tinkerbell dislikes Wendy so much that she lies to the Lost Boys to get them
That's,
in trouble.
Next.
But I also found it interesting how they were talking about it and how you find out that Captain Hook has actually been chasing Peter Pan for years.
Well,
How many years do you think it was?
he doesn't age, so
I know, but how many years do you think it was?
Sky's the limit. Crocodiles can live forever. So.
Prehistoric.
So as you said, we meet the Lost Boys.
Hmm.
In all of their animal skin clothes glory in their hidden fort.
Yes.
Did you notice what I noticed?
I don't know.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
So you have one that's dressed like a fox, twins that are dressed like raccoons. You have a bear, a skunk, and a rabbit.
So, something I noticed
Yeah.
is that the Lost Boys outfits, like you said, the rabbit, the bear, the fox, they're just like the Brer animals from Song of the South and Splash Mountain, all the way to the point where the bear's weapon is a club, just like in Splash Mountain.
I did not notice that.
Yep. So like you said though, Tinkerbell tries to
Hang on, time out.
Go ahead.
Who is your favorite Lost Boy?
I don't know, the skunk, I think.
Really? Okay.
Why
Mine's the raccoon, so I was wondering like if subliminally that's why I've kind of always liked raccoons.
We don't have enough room. So Tinkerbell tries to convince them to shoot the Wendy bird down, but Peter saves her life. And he gets mad because he brings them a mother to tell them stories and they shoot her down. I know you have a dog in your face, but any thoughts on this part of this going on?
Well, like you said, she gets tricked, or they get tricked by Tink. And then I guess Peter kind of shows up kind of like a father figure and is scolding the boys, which then they're like, well, Tink told us to do it. And then he charges her with high treason and banishes her forever.
For a week.
No.
It's a week this time.
No, he banished her forever. And then Wendy, the person that Tink doesn't even like, actually takes up for her. And she was like, well, don't you think that's a little harsh?
Okay.
So then he changes it to a week.
A week, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was in my notes.
I was just like, she hates you. And you're going to be like, well, that's a little harsh.
Peter
Really?
turns back on this a little bit later.
Yeah.
So Peter appoints John as the leader of the Lost Boys excursion. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but John's the best.
No, it's Michael.
So John is the leader of the Lost Boys excursion. We get the fun and very nostalgic Disney sing-along VHS tape, Follow the Leader song scene. Which if you haven't seen it, go ahead and pause us and go watch that. We'll wait. Okay, we're back. So as they're doing that scene, they are saved from being attacked by a scary bear because of Michael's teddy bear. But the Lost Boys do get attacked.
And that's why Michael's best.
No. And the Lost Boys do get attacked by the natives. They're disguised in trees.
Yes. And I thought it was funny
inappropriate, but go ahead.
That Michael was carrying his teddy bear and he notices that the tree is following him and he's the first one that notices it and then he's captured. And I was thinking to myself, this teddy bear goes on this wild adventure during this entire movie.
That's right.
And manages to stay in one piece. It's kind of
comes into play. Well, it's. I mean, I don't. No spoilers. We'll say later how it stays in one piece, but.
Yeah.
So, they get attacked by the natives. It's not the most culturally appropriate thing.
Yeah.
But we'll dive into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But then we realized that it's normally just a game between the natives and the Lost Boys. But
sometimes one wins and sometimes the other wins.
But we realized that this time there is no spoofing because they think that the Lost Boys are responsible for the missing Tiger Lily.
Yeah.
Anything on this?
The chief says that she's missing, Tiger Lily, and if she's not back by sunset, the Lost Boys with Michael and John will be burned at the stake.
Yep.
And I was like, oh boy.
I mean, that is his daughter, so.
I know, but.
Yeah. So then we cut to a different scene, which is Peter showing Wendy the mermaids. I know you love mermaids, so.
I do.
What's some thoughts you got over there on the mermaids?
So, I don't know. They're the best.
John's the best, but go ahead.
No. Michael's the best, but then I would say the mermaids are probably the second best out of this whole entire movie. But there, I guess, is a conspiracy that the redheaded one that looks like Ariel is actually Ariel's mom. Have you heard this?
Yeah, well, you mentioned it.
Okay, well, there's the conspiracy that she's the mom. And um there is also a point where the mermaids, one of them's hair changes different colors if you keep watching it.
Really?
Yeah. And then it's the one with upturned clamshells, has black hair when she's first seen, and then a minute later it changes to blonde, and then another
Upturned-
minute
What does that even mean?
upturned clamshells. So I guess her like a clamshell bra.
Oh, okay, I get it now.
Yep. And then after it's blonde, another minute later it's red. So her hair changes like 3 different colors. And then another goof in that section is when the mermaids are splashing Wendy, her hair is shown as wet, and then a second later, when the arrival of Captain Hook comes, her hair's dry.
Because they ran in the circle like in Alice in Wonderland. So like you said, the mermaids don't like Wendy.
And they were just trying to drown her.
Yep.
And that's one of my favorite lines.
Yep.
I actually have a little pin of that.
So they're trying to make her swim, and then when Peter scolds them, they say that very innocently that they were only trying to drown her. But then we see Hook and Smee on a boat with a captured tiger lily
Mm-hmm.
heading towards Skull Rock.
Yep.
And you'll never guess why Skull Rock got its name.
Because it looks like a
It
skull.
looks like a skull.
But I had some nostalgia moments when we did this. So like in that scene, it reminded me, I don't know if you've ever played any of it, but it was like a Donkey Kong game that I used to play with AJ, and there was that scene specifically reminds me of a section of this Donkey Kong video
Yeah.
game.
No, I have no idea.
I was totally reliving my childhood watching this movie.
I mean, I was too for the right reasons.
Well, I was for several different reasons.
So Tiger Lily refuses to tell Hook where Peter is hiding,
Yeah.
and then Peter uses the echoes in the cave to make them think that they're spirits, and he mimics Hook's voice to order Smee to let Tiger Lily free.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then Hook kind of figures this out.
Mm-hmm.
So Peter and Hook get into a fight, and but Peter cons Smee to shoot at him, causing him to almost hit Hook.
Mm-hmm.
And then Peter calls Hook a codfish, which is something that we're gonna hear a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
But then we hear the crocodile ticking clock, and then Hook has to fight off the crocodile from not getting eaten in another famous scene. Anything on this?
I thought it was funny when Smee goes to save Captain Hook before they take off. He briefly has to go back to land to grab his hat. While the crocodile's going after Captain Hook, he's just like, "Oh wait, I've got to go back and get my hat," and then he goes to save him. And I enjoy how when they make it back to the ship, the crocodile's just kind of like doing circles around outside the ship, just licking his mouth, like taunting Captain
licking.
Hook.
Girl is all about licking right now.
Faye is trying to demonstrate exactly what this crocodile was doing.
Yeah. I actually wrote right here for the first time in this that I wrote how much I love the animation of this film.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild that it was like pre-computer animation, and it's so beautiful and just
Yeah.
my pup. Is it raining outside? Why are you so loving? So Peter officially saves Tiger Lily.
Yep.
But then which allows the Lost Boys to, but we'll get there on that.
Mm-hmm.
Back at the pirate ship while Hook is resting from his headache and his injuries, Smee says that he heard that there's a woman trouble on the island because because Pan has banished Tinkerbell.
Mm-hmm.
Anything on this?
Then Captain Hook tells him that a jealous female can be tricked into anything.
Yeah, so he decides that he's going to trick Tinkerbell into showing them where Pan's hiding place is.
Yep.
But then Peter does return Tiger Lily to the chief, and they have a celebration. It very much has not
So
aged
nobody
well.
was burned at the stake.
Yep, but it very much does not age well. They could cut this, make the Red Man Red scene completely out of the film.
Yeah.
It's you have anything to add on that, or before we just dive right past it, because it's definitely a matter, it's a story.
I guess we can just dive right past that one.
Yeah.
I didn't really write anything on it
but
because I was like, okay.
I would say the most important thing about that celebration is this is the first time that Wendy shows the first sign that she wants to go home.
Yeah.
Wendy's not having a good time.
Because Tyra Lily kisses Peter Pan and she's like, well, I'm over this.
Mhm.
I'm ready to go home.
But then we see that Smee steals Tinkerbell,
Mm-hmm.
and Captain Hook is trying to win her over by telling her that he is leaving, and that he also agrees that Wendy is the one to blame.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this?
I mean, it's a smart plan on Captain Hook's part. And he does eventually trick Tinkerbell into showing him where the hideout is.
Yeah, so he does trick Tink into
Yeah.
showing the pirates where Peter's hideout is, as long as he promises not to lay a finger on Peter.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if you had it in your notes, but once they get to the hideout and they Peter's well, I don't know if Peter was there or not. I think he was. But Wendy's singing to them.
Yeah, we'll get there on that one.
So she's singing a lullaby.
Yeah.
And you see all the pirates like slowly like sneaking up on this tree to the entrance of like where the hideout is. And I thought it was funny because for some reason Smee's shirt comes up and he has a mother tattoo on his belly.
Yeah, so we'll get there on that. So we do find out where Peter's in the boys' hideout is.
Yeah.
And I really hope that no Neverland pirates are watching this, because it was the Hangman's Tree the whole time, which is a gnarly name, the Hangman's Tree. But so back inside of the hiding place, Wendy is upset and wants to go to bed and to be taken home in the morning. And she says that they have to leave because they need a mother, causing the Lost Boys to think about their mothers. And they listen to Wendy's story and songs about the mother, which is something that you mentioned. Hook and the pirates are hiding outside of the hideout, and they hear the song, causing the pirates to start to cry. You see Smee's mother tattoo, like you said.
Oh, I think he was like maybe wiping his eyes or something,
Yeah.
and he pulled his shirt up, and that's when you see his mother
tattoo. Peter does warn them that once they grow up, they can never come back. But the Darlings and the Lost Boys decided that they're going to leave at once to go home, and they're going to leave Peter, but they get trapped by the pirates. Anything to add on this before we dive into what happens next?
No, not really.
So they get trapped by the pirates, and then Hook also drops a package with a bomb into the hideout, because he promised Tinkerbell that he wouldn't lay a finger on Peter.
So he wasn't laying a finger or a hook on him.
That's true. He then, we're back on the ship. He's trying to convince the captured Lost Boys to join his crew. But it is revealed,
and he offers them a free tattoo if they join his pirates.
That's true.
And I think that was like the selling point for them, because I think they were all like, hey, even John is like walking over there. Well, did you hear what he was offering?
Do you think, this isn't in my notes, but do you think that the Lost Boys would get a tattoo of me because I have a tattoo of them?
No, because you weren't in existence during that time.
It's true. So it is revealed that Tinkerbell is trapped inside of a lantern, and it is here that I had to pause the film to ask you what she was trapped in, because I could not remember what the name of the lantern was.
Lantern.
And then Peter receives the gift, and it is addressed to him with love from Wendy, but do not open till 6 o'clock.
Because that's not suspicious at all.
Hook is a jerk.
I was just like,
Hook is a jerk.
Why are you even gonna hold on to this?
I take back my being okay with wearing pink shirts to work because of him, because he's a jerk.
You're gonna throw out more than half your wardrobe.
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
So then Tink realizes what's going on, and she breaks her way out of the lantern
with 18 seconds left.
Seconds before the bomb goes off. But she does get there in record time to save Peter, though he doesn't believe her, and she does grab the bomb at the last second, but it does go off, and it does appear that Tink does blow up with the bomb.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this?
I mean, It's a dramatic moment, has you on the edge of your seat. And then Peter tells Tink she means more to him than anything in the entire world and begs her not to go out.
Yep, she has to
And
save
her
her
light,
before the light goes out.
yeah, and her light where you can see where she's trapped is fading.
Sad.
Faye looks
I
very
was gonna
sad.
say, even
She was just,
she's sad about it.
yeah.
So then we get back to the ship, and the boys and Wendy are about to walk the plank.
Yeah.
But right as
But
Wendy,
Tink also saves the day again because she told Peter that Captain Hook had them trapped.
Mhm.
But he refused to leave and go save them first. He had to save Tink.
Because she means the most to him.
Yep.
But then we cut to Wendy's about to walk the plank. The second she steps off the plank, there's no splash. They make this huge deal about how there's no splash.
Yes.
So the pirates think that she's bewitched.
Yep.
But we find out that Peter caught her,
Mhm.
which does cause a fight. Which
Mm.
is
And then they think there's a ghost.
Yeah.
Because Peter's there and they're still convinced they killed him with the bomb.
And then Peter and Cook fight, even though Peter has this preposterously small sword compared to
Yes.
Hook's sword.
Mhm.
They have a fight scene that again is better than any that was in Treasure Island.
Agreed.
And then it's right here where the Lost Boys and the pirates are fighting, and Michael puts a cannonball inside of his very sturdy teddy bear.
Yeah.
For a weapon. Thoughts on that?
I mean, Michael's the best. He's a pretty smart kid.
Yeah, but John's the best. So,
No.
they're fighting on like the, I don't know, one of the higher parts of the ship. I don't know what it's called.
mast.
The mast. And Peter Pan says nobody calls Pan a coward and lives.
Mm-hmm.
He gets Hook to say that he's a codfish,
Mm-hmm.
but then he decides to spare Hook's life. You want to say anything on this?
I mean, he decides to spare his life and then it almost backfires on him.
Yeah, so he gets
Lesson learned, you should always kill your enemies.
So
Disney movie, don't go out and do that in real life, please. I do not condone that.
So then Hook does try to turn the tables, but he does get too egotistical, which
Yeah.
causes him to fall into the crocodile-filled water. And we again hear the song, and he has to escape with his life.
Yes, and he turns into Jesus at this point and starts running on water.
I mean,
I had that in my notes.
if you're getting chased by a crocodile, so
Yes, Jesus helped him
but then again,
learn how to run on water.
maybe it's because he's a codfish, so that's why he's so good in
No,
water.
he was running on top of
Yeah, he sure was. So then we get Captain Peter Pan,
Mm-hmm.
and the boys take over the ship,
Mm-hmm.
and it's now their ship, and they start sailing to London to, of course, return the Darlings at their request,
Yeah.
with the help of a little pixie dust.
Yeah, and you think that Tink would be completely out of pixie dust after this time, after she's dusted an entire ship. How do they produce pixie dust?
I mean, in Once Upon a Time, they.
I know, but that stuff was valuable.
So I actually wrote, how many happy thoughts do you think an entire ship needs to fly?
Probably a lot. For an entire ship, that'd have to be quite a bit, I would think.
Mm-hmm. So then we're back in London,
Mm-hmm.
and the Darlings return, and they bring Nana back in,
Mm-hmm.
but they realize what they think that the children are missing. But then they see Wendy is asleep by the open window.
Yeah.
She starts excitingly telling her parents about their evening, but the parents are quite confused. And she then says that she's ready to grow up, which of course is my least favorite line of the entire movie. But anything on this before we dive into the ending?
I thought to myself, what about if Wendy was dreaming this the entire time? Like none of it ever happened and it was just a dream she was
is
having.
the same voice as Alice in Wonderland, so that would make sense.
And Mr. Darling, her dad, was her inspiration for Captain Hook because he was making her grow up, so that's why he was the bad guy.
I mean, that's kind of like what happens in Wizard of Oz when all the voices of all the people are the same. But
Yeah.
in the reverse to one of my least favorite lines, one of my favorite scenes here at the end is that to prove what you just said wrong, we do see the ship flying by the moon, and Mr. and Mrs. Darling do see the ship,
Mhm.
and they have the strangest feeling that they have seen it before when they were very young,
Mm-hmm.
revealing that they do believe in Peter Pan. And we hear "You Can Fly Again" and in a very emotional final scene.
Mhm.
Thoughts on that?
The dad was lying. He's really the villain.
No. So he knows Peter Pan. Maybe he knows Peter Pan because he knows Captain Hook. But
Yeah.
any more goofs or thoughts you want to touch
Yeah.
on before we wrap this up?
So, even though the film was a modest success, Walt Disney himself was dissatisfied with the finished product, and he felt that the character of Peter Pan was cold and unlikable. However, J.M. Barrie actually praises the success for this because, as they insist, that Peter Pan was originally written to be a heartless sociopath. So, apparently, in the book, he is way different than he is in this movie, and I guess they were happy with the way he portrayed Peter Pan.
Mhm.
And like I said earlier, the original planned version had Nana traveling with the children to Neverland, but it also had a much darker ending, so I guess that might have been why they scrapped it. Um, and then there are several passages in the original play that link Peter Pan to the ancient Greek mythology. And I guess that has Peter Pan being the son of the god Hermes.
Oh, that's not what I was going to say at all.
Yeah, because he is supposed to be like, um, he's supposed to be like a fawn, but like a pan that he's supposed to like watch over the creature. I guess kind of like Bambi's dad was, like a
Okay.
keeper of the forest, I guess was what Peter's woodland creatures. Um, And then in the play, the Lost Boys were infants who fell out of their prams, which I think is like a
Yeah.
stroller or
Well, that's like the
something.
stories I've heard, at least. They fell out
Yeah.
of their stories.
While the nurses weren't looking, and then Peter Pan is a permanent resident of Neverland. The Lost Boys are only temporary lodgers. If they seem to grow up, Pan would kill them to prevent Neverland from overpopulation and reduce the chances of a challenge to his rule, which I thought was pretty dark. And then an interesting thing that I found, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, Andy, you should be listening. Um, J.R.R. Tolkien was a Peter Pan fan, and Neverland and the Lost Boys had a definite impact on Middle Earth. Peter Pan himself particularly influenced the elves. Did you know that?
Who did John influence? He's the best.
Nobody. He influenced the orcs. I'm just kidding. And then let me see some other good things that I found. Like you said, Peter Pan and Wendy were supposed to resemble their respective voice actors. Jeffrey's one of his favorite little tidbits that I'm surprised he didn't mention was apparently this was a favorite of Michael Jackson, and he bestowed the name Neverland on his ranch in Santa Barbara, complete with a private amusement park because of this.
His pet monkey.
With his pet monkey. And then The Reluctant Dragon in 1941 features a tour of the Disney studios in which drawings of Captain Hook can clearly be seen, indicating that the film was in active development as early as 1941.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this is a perfect film.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any more goofs or tidbits,
I don't.
do we have a rate?
Yes, a rating. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. IMDb gave it a 7.3 out of 10.
Wow, that's IMDb hates me. So speaking of our own listings,
Yes.
I think it's time for our list upon a star, or as we can call it, list upon a second star to the right. So does the question of the day here, the Labor Day question of the day, does Peter Pan make your list upon a star? And please read
It
for
does.
our audio listeners.
So I am going to lose melody time. And we're gonna slide this down a little bit. I think I did that a little too much. All right, so I'll fix that after. So number one, I've got Dumbo, The Three Caballeros, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Fantasia, Saludos Amigos, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Bambi, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and Cinderella, who gets everything.
So, mine. I have to say, the other day, we reviewed Alice in Wonderland. And I went on this big tangent about how much it deserves to be number one. Well, it doesn't, because that nice little short title reign here for Miss Alice. But her voice still kind of stays the same because Wendy has her voice. So my list upon a star is Peter Pan at number one, for those who didn't know. Alice in Wonderland at number two, Pinocchio at number three, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad at four, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs at five, The Three Caballeros six, Cinderella at seven, Dumbo at eight, Bambi at nine, and Fun and Fancy Free as my current number 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, what will top that going forward?
I'm not sure.
So thank you again for joining us for this momentous episode. I can't believe that it's been 20 episodes. Only a lot more to go.
Yeah.
A little side note before we do wrap up. I know a few episodes ago, back when we were reviewing Song of the South, we kind of went on a rabbit hole about how we were talking about Splash Mountain and we were comparing and we were excited about the new Tiana's Bayou Adventure Splash Mountain attraction. I do want to say that we were able to get down there and ride it during the first week that it was opened around when we were recording this. And I can speak for both of us. I'll let you say, but I can say that it was amazing. It had so much charm and it added so much awesome. So
yes,
that's my favorite, and it was.
And we did some research after, and we did find out that there was little tributes to the original Splash Mountain still there. So see if you can find them. We won't spoil it for you.
So
see if you can find it first.
So
and then if you can't, let us know and we'll help.
Yeah, send us an email. So we'll let you go down there and do that. So if you want to pause this now, go ride it and let us know. We'll wait. Okay, we're back. So send us your emails. Let us know how much we blabbed on about this, or how you feel about this film. If you agree with us, deep dive in the magicpod@gmail.com. We have YouTube, we have Spotify. KJ over here has been killing the TikTok content lately. But next week is something so very different from July of 1953. It is The Sword and the Rose. Have you ever heard of it before? Because
I kept wanting to call it The Sword and the Stone.
Which is not. It's a completely different thing. We will get there.
So if that's what you're thinking, no, you have not. Okay.
We will get there. So again, thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll see you then.
All right. Thanks for deep diving the magic. Michael's the best.